So a couple weeks ago, the World Finals was being held in Nissan Stadium for the 22nd iteration, technically 23rd if you count World Finals era. And, well, I don't really know. I don't really know how to explain the World Finals. But the place was getting panned because, well, time frame and, well, weather. And really a lot of other situations, including the stadium and the city it was held in. But then I wondered that question, and I think a couple others have also wondered that question. What would we do about it? Well, I decided to finally stop questioning it and ask the brilliant minds of the USHRA server of what idea this was. Actually, that was probably a lot more of a very dangerous idea of that. But it got a big time response, and many of the suggestions were taken for the people. However, because of privacy, if trying to keep people's names on that server private, I've decided not to name any of the people there, although a couple of people will be around for my usual joking, because that's just how my channel is. But I do enjoy being a bit of a shunt stain. Anyways, you're here for the video, and what stadiums have the best chance, what stadiums have no chance, and what stadiums would make you think that you are a Rod Schmidt supporter in thinking that this idea was a good idea, stadium-wise. So, let's get into that. So anyways, here's a couple ground rules I need to set for the ruling. Number one, how will this work? So here are the rules. First off, playing space, or basically the space for a track for the World Finals, is pretty necessary since, the World Finals is, the biggest monster trucking event in the entire world. However, it's not the only thing. You also need space for the pit party. This hurts many areas of places, as the spot for parking is already not ideal, let alone holding a pit party, especially outside. Another thing as well is, well, time of the year. You need to figure out time of the year, because sometimes, it doesn't always work in the time of year. And the biggest killer for most stadiums, well, weather. That is by far the biggest outlook on any of it, and can kill some of the stadiums straight up off it. Now, with that being said, let's go through stadiums that either have or will host the World Finals. Edwards Jones Dome, or no, nowadays the Dome Center of America in St. Louis, hosted the World Finals 0, which technically is World Finals. Then Sam Boyd Stadium hosted every year from 2000 to 2018. Camping World Stadium hosted from 2000 to 19 and 2021. Nissan Stadium hosted this last year's World Finals, and the next upcoming World Finals will be held at SoFi Stadium. However, those are the only 5. What are the other stadiums that could have a chance making it? Well, here goes the list. Out of all the stadiums, MetLife Stadium has the best chance, in my opinion, to host the World Finals, as it was initially said it would actually host the World Finals for World Finals 19, or World Finals announced at World Finals 17, potentially. I keep getting my dates mixed up. World Finals 18. It would be held potentially at World Finals 20 there at the stadium. However, apparently because of other underlying issues, including like other events being held there, it was moved to Orlando. However, if we're going straight up off, while playing size may be a bit of an issue, it solves 2 issues instantly. Since it's near New York and the infrastructure here will not be an issue at all, and the weather, if it's held in, May, will definitely be nice. Also, pit party will be the easiest, and it's probably the obvious spot for a pit party to be held, because, yeah, it is. However, no plan has come forward for the stadium hosted, even though I hope it does, because, honest God, they need to. And although infrastructure for the stadium may be a little bit, shaky for this, as I did actually mention that, but infrastructure for the stadium, considering hotels and flying and stuff like that, it's not exactly there, although considering this is probably the Robert Kraft owner, if he can actually, convince Mottfeld to actually come to Gillette Stadium, he could literally build a hotel. Hell, they have the parking lot. They can also host a pit party easily. The floor may be a little bit interesting, but it is a pretty big floor, and they could probably get a good course on there. However, the one issue, other than the obvious, would be the infrastructure. Unlike their actual NFL team this year, the Gillette Stadium has a slight chance of hosting a championship. Despite having the look of, well, way too much metallic, Mercedes-Benz Stadium has a decent chance of actually hosting the World Finals, despite it not even being on the Montreal schedule at this current point. That's because the floor is hella bigger than the Georgia Dome. And while the parking lot is not the best, you could figure out, and you might be able to get the World Finals, at least a pit party to be there. And Atlanta absolutely has the infrastructure to hold the event. The issue is the traffic. Legitimately, tell anybody who lives there or anybody who has flown in there or come out, the traffic is pretty horrific in Atlanta. However, this place has a better chance of hosting World Finals than another area that we'll get to later. The now named Caesars Superdome, which sounds absolutely horrific, is an interesting case. First off, they definitely have the floor space. Hell, they have one of the biggest floor spaces in all the land. And they definitely have the infrastructure in New Orleans. However, pit party space will probably be an issue since it's not a whole lot of room for parking. But considering the giant floor, they might be able to do something temporary in the inside of the stadium. But the biggest issue, though, weather. You're really going to have to roll the dice, considering that hurricanes here are a huge issue. And you are very optimistic if you make it through the entire time without getting rain, especially any time past May. So you're going to have to be really hoping it. Although considering a spot in New Orleans and a World Finals in New Orleans would be cool, bit unlikely. Our last stadium for this list, at least in the maybes, is Lucas Oil Stadium. They have hosted the Super Bowl, and they definitely do have infrastructure, considering there is a literal friggin' hotel that was built for Super Bowl that they can now probably host for other events. And while parking will be decent, and overall, the weather will be good, the issue is place for pit party. It's overall not going to be a whole lot of space. Overall, and while obviously the stadium is nice looking and has an interesting of look, overall there's really it would kind of make sense theologically, but also wouldn't. While overall Indianapolis doesn't have exactly the biggest floor in the world, it could host the World Finals if push came to shove, although I would find it a bit unlikely. Now on to, well, no, straight up. Although considering Lincoln Financial Field could have the weather throughout most of this time to their advantage, that probably would be close, but the only thing, maybe places for the pit party since parking is insane here. And I mean, overall, the floor is actually very good. The issue, well, Philadelphia is a dangerous place to be, day or night. And I can tell you that straight up if you've just seen how insane it is. And although the place could work out well for almost everywhere, and infrastructure wasn't bad, I think, honest to God, Philadelphia is a bit more of a dangerous spot than most people give it credit for. But, again, that's the main reason why it's no, because it's a dangerous place. Although the Link could probably host the World Finals if push came to shove. Oh boy, get ready to get triggered. AT&T Stadium. Now, before I start, AT&T Stadium is a beautiful stadium. It's one of the best out there. However, overall, the whole entire state of Texas is a very interesting side. And there's a couple issues overall. While flying into the stadium, or infrastructure-wise rather, is not that big of an issue, parking and a place for the pit party could be a bit of an issue, although they could probably fix that out, and considering Phil, they can probably do anything. The big issue is the flooring. It's not exactly the biggest floor. And a huge exclusion, a huge issue though for Arlington is the weather. The weather in Texas, once it reaches late April, is horrific. And unless they host the World Finals in April, it probably will not be as good. Yes, they can pump in air inside, but the outside environment will be a hell personable of how it was felt in Nashville. This would be kind of a why, because since essentially the World Finals was hosted in essentially a very same slot in Camping World Stadium. And plus, considering Feld rolled the dice and it really didn't work, considering weather was a major issue during their May time, Raymond James Stadium, rather, would have basically that same type of issue. Yes, they have infinite place for the pit party. They could literally use the old Tampa Stadium grounds as place for the pit party. And the floor is very big, but really considering the big excluder would be weather, because they probably don't want a flood bowl about as amazing as World Finals 21 would be, or the entire MJ community to go off on you for that. Again, this is another stadium that if push came to shove, NRG Stadium probably could host the Super Bowl, but nah. There really is not a big draw and a big reason of why you would bring the World Finals to Houston. Yes, you could probably get the pit party working perfectly. Hell, you could use the Astrodome for part of the pit party. And the floor is very big indeed. But really, other than food and, well, a view of the city and women, there's no other draw to Houston. I know this episode's going to piss off someone that I know very well who's from the area. Sorry, Houston is not really that glamorous, at least overall. So it would be a cool spot for the World Finals. But a big issue also is weather, since you would be scorching after April. Now, this is a spot that definitely would be cool, as Atlanta Super Speedway is a legendary track for NASCAR. However, Monster Jam, they've only recently started running in the venue in 2021. However, it's proved to have some very unique types of styles. And overall, the spot can obviously host a pit party, and as I say, for the infrastructure in Atlanta can hold the event. The issue, though, is weather, considering that weather in that part of the city would probably not be exactly ideal. If you're hosting it in May, have a slight chance of it being, absolutely miserable, a lot like what Nashville felt like in July. You'd probably have to hold the event in April. And considering the radical design of the Atlanta Super Speedway now, you'd definitely be rolling the dice on the track and what type of track design you choose. While I think a World Finals at Atlanta Super Speedway would be cool, probably too risky for Feld and them to go through. Oh boy, this is going to make a lot of people angry. Yes, State Farm Stadium is a beautiful stadium. It looks great. And while overall the parking can work and the pit party can be hosted, infrastructure is not really exactly the most well-based there, although it can still hold it. And overall, the flooring as well is pretty large. The biggest issue is the weather. While the roof can be closed down up top again, really the biggest issue would be the pit party because, well, yeah, Arizona is like the hottest place on earth, and you will be on fire if this is held anywhere from March to, or pretty much April to, October. You will be on fire. About as much as me being on fire about my Randy Brown level takes. Now the nose way of whys. Levi Stadium. Very unique, and it definitely can hold a very large amount. It's a huge floor. And overall, the parking, though, is a huge issue. Also, the stadium itself doesn't look that great and glamorous. And the big issue, though, for Levi Stadium, obviously, is the weather. The weather in California is incredibly unpredictable. It is pretty bad. I mean, hell, if you looked back during the NASCAR race, they were holding at Auto Club, it was literally snowing in parts of California, actually in good portions of California. Overall, considering it's not really the best spot and it's just got a lot of issues overall going with this, World Finals here would be very unnecessary and unless out of necessity. Really, not really that good of a place. Ha! Detroit. Yes, one of the worst cities in America. Overall, the stadium itself is very nice and has very nice inside. And also, the flooring isn't bad. That's about the only good thing Detroit could do, considering that the weather could be good. Considering the spots for the pit party would be incredibly impossible since the parking looks horrific around this place. I'll also say one thing. Detroit is incredibly bad. It looks bad, and most of the spots are abandoned. And unless you want to risk yourself getting completely killed out here, it's best to keep the World Finals from being out here in Ford Field. Even though the place is beautiful, there's just no chance Detroit has hosting the World Finals. There is just absolutely no way in hell Cleveland could ever host a World Finals for a multitude of reasons. Number one, it's in Cleveland, Ohio. You guys all know. While the floor itself actually is good, and while the pit party might be able to work, and weather might be decent, the fact that it's in Cleveland, Ohio immediately kills any aspirations of Phil probably ever hosting it, unless Phil's taken over by some crack addicts. Then again, this is Phil, so they'll probably do it because they hate their fans. And overall, this would be one of the worst spots to hold the World Finals. But not the worst. Okay, this is more of a joke one, but the fact that someone did suggest this makes me really question you. Well, maybe an arena World Finals, if Phil ever did that, which they are not going to, it would make sense. However, the weird-looking stadium itself already is a major turnoff. And you know what? Let's not even get into this talk, because there's no way they ever will hold a World Finals here. Never. So let's get out of here. Yeah, you guys saw this one coming. That is the Oakland Coliseum, a last giant of a major era, one of two giants, rather, that still at least exist. However, it is said to probably be the worst MLB stadium and one of the worst stadiums out there. And overall, just so I'm not beating a dead horse because so many other people have talked about it, we'll just get this straight up obvious. Well, the parking can work. That's about the only spot for the stand. The track design would be incredibly eye-killing and just wanting to take your eyes out of your ball sockets. Wow, that made a lot of sense, didn't it? But overall, the stadium itself is bad. The flooding, just the old dilapidated stadium, and overall the horrific side. It's pretty much been announced that the A's are leaving after 2026, I believe, or 2027 for Las Vegas, and likely the stadium will be demolished. So this would just be a giant lie. For anybody who does think that this spot is worthy of a World Finals slot, makes about as much sense as people saying Randy Brown's 2010 season was a great year. Diane Duncan! So yeah, after my near meltdown there, basically that's gonna do it for the video. I just wanted to get this out here, and again, it's been a while since I've done another one of these talkative type of videos. This has just been a question that, you know, a lot of people probably have thought, but never decided to ask, and no one else has done this. So yeah, if you enjoyed the horrifyingness of my journeys and my constant crapping on two people specifically, then you will hit subscribe and yeah, where do you think the World Finals should be hosted, and what stadiums that were not included here do you think could theoretically host the World Finals? Because I know there are definitely stadiums that were not in this video that probably could, if you know, think about it. No, Minneapolis is not one of those. Anyways, this is Macho Fan 2010. Hope you guys enjoyed, and see you on the next one.